Morning, everyone, and take this opportunity to begin the day with meditation and reflecting on Dhamma, reflecting on our practice. This is day 5 of our practice session of the 25th anniversary of Abhayagiri, honoring our elders, and of course when we reflect on our elders, mentors, examples who have guided us. It's I think one of the aspects is basically just considering refuge, just as we taking the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, beginning the day, beginning the session. It's that recollection of refuge, and so both recognizing that we do have a refuge, we do have mentors and elders who have provided the examples and teachings, both say in the present day of the resident teachers at Abhayagiri, but stretching back to say Ajahn who was here, helped to establish place, Luang Por Sumedho, who was the kind of the guiding force behind the establishing of Abhayagiri, or the pre-Abhayagiri days. Then, of course, Ajahn Chah, who was the inspiration for all of us. But then Ajahn Chah would never take credit for anything. It was, well, don't look at me, look at the Buddha. I mean, that's the refuge. Looking to the Buddha as both in terms of a historical sense, but also in terms of the that principle of awakening, and so that through the ages, the centuries, the millennia, these teachings of awakening have been lived and transmitted and passed on to us, and we have the opportunity to practice it. We also have the opportunity to continue to pass that on to others, because it's it's like the good examples and the inspiration that is set by communities and when we say community, it's the monastic community and the lay community. And that's what gives a continuity and gives a kind of energy for the continuity of this practice. And So that at this point in time, it's a great opportunity to reflect and remember 25 years of Abhayagiri, but it's say 25 years of Abhayagiri preceded by 2,500 years of Buddhism, and Buddhist practice. And to be able to give ourselves to the practice, to the training, so that we are able to provide the kind of energy and impetus for others to continue to practice. So as we begin our day with say the first morning sitting, just sitting and clearing the mind. It's like planting the seed of recollection of refuge and of good examples, but then also just letting the mind clear, let it settle. And we can, it's like you plant the seed of, say, motivation and interest, but if you overthink it, overanalyze it, over-proliferate it, it doesn't bear much fruit, or it bears too much fruit, and it's just too much thought, too much thinking, too much too much of everything. It's letting the mind kind of be simple and aware, to be spacious and clear. Just breathing in and being with the knowing, being with this kind of this simple quality of I mean, oftentimes in the certainly in the northeast of Thailand, the most common meditation technique or method is using a recitation of the Buddha's name, Buddho. In Thai it ends with an O, Buddho. So that recollection of Buddho, recollection of the Buddha. But that's kind of referring to a sense of this quality of knowing, of being awake, being alert, being present. So that as one breathes in, just being awake, alert, present. Breathing out, staying with that quality of awake, alert, present. And it's an opportunity that we have. We've got the opportunity to distract ourselves, or the opportunity to obsess over some mood of irritation and aversion, or to get caught up in doubt and uncertainty. But recognize that you can also just return to the quality of knowing. you can allow that to be the anchor of the mind, the anchor of the heart. So as one breathes in, just being with the knowing. So one breathes out, just being with the knowing. And inevitably there are, say, various hindrances that come up in the mind. The Buddha pointed these out 2,500 years ago, and encouraged us to recognize them, but then to relinquish them. And say the tendency to sense desire, in the sense that one is say, rather than just being alert and present and content with this present moment, the mind gets distracted into seeking gratification, seeking stimulation, seeking a kind of excitement with something pleasurable through sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Or just fantasy. So that sense desire, and being able to relinquish that and come back to the knowing. It's so much more satisfying. It's so much more easeful. Similarly, the hindrance of ill will, of aversion. And when the mind is swept up in ill will, aversion, it's easy to find fault, to find things that are less than perfect, less than optimal. But that just drains energy from the mind. It doesn't make the mind happy, it doesn't make the mind peaceful. That being willing to relinquish, say, the habit or the tendency that inclines to ill will, and return to the knowing, return to mindfulness. It's the simple act of being aware of the breath coming in, the breath going out. Sometimes it's hard to stay with simplicity, being with the simplicity of awareness and knowing and peacefulness. The next hindrance that the Buddha pointed to is the hindrance of dullness and sleepiness. We put our mind on an object, try to empty the mind, stay with the knowing, and we drift off to sleep. We fall into kind of dullness because the mind isn't engaging itself. It's pulling back, but it's not just pulling back, it's sinking. So that's important to, like, lifting the mind up to the quality of knowing, the quality of awareness. It's so much more satisfying. Just experimenting with that. And then if the mind doesn't fall into dullness. It's easy for the mind to drift into kind of restlessness. It's not willing to engage in being mindful, steady, clear, content with the present moment. It's, looking for something else, anything else, and that's so the mind ends up agitated, restless, worried about something, planning for the next catastrophe that's going to happen in one's life, and the next thing to worry about. Just being willing to drop it, to let it go. It's not to judge it or to try to annihilate it. It's just sort of, no, I think I'll just stay with the knowing, stay with the awareness. That's internally pleasing. Or kind of the last hindrance that the Buddha pointed to, doubt, uncertainty, wavering. Mind's not sure, so it just feels unsettled. Being able to just recognize it. Oh, that's because it seems so compelling. I got to figure this out. I'm not really sure. What do I do? What do I do? And it's just like a deer in the headlights. Or we get oftentimes when we go up the road, sometimes we'll get rabbits are on Abhayagiri, and they'll see especially if it's in the evening and they have headlights, and they'll start running back and forth across the road, and it's just go up, and you have to go. There's this certain frantic uncertainty of what to do. It's so easy just to step off to the side, but that must be really tiring for these rabbits to be running away from these the headlights. But that's what the mind does. Tires itself out. But that being with the knowing, being with awareness, coming back to that Buddho, that internal quality of the Buddha, awake, alert, present. That's very satisfying. It's very settling. It's very easeful. And so that to be able to return to that place, and it's always there. It's sort of waiting patiently for us to return. Oftentimes we don't make it back. So that recognize that internal peace, internal clarity is always there. That's the nature of the mind itself. That's the nature of, say, a Buddha. That's the refuge of Buddha. That coming back to the knowing. So we can take this opportunity to sit quietly, just reflecting on this opportunity, and allowing the mind, allowing the heart to settle into clarity.